Daryl Jack finally came in and brought it on because the kids couldn't agree.
Okay, as promised, so Evie, did we have anyone sign up to speak to the agreement, the easement agreement? Did we have any, as promised, we were going to allow citizens to sign up to speak after the break on the easement agreement? It was on the consent agenda, but we moved it to after the break. Was there a citizen that signed up to speak to that? Since we usually only do one break, this is it. Yes, so we were going to move it to after the break. Yes, ma'am. No one signed up? Okay, so we have the easement agreement. So we're going to address that. There's some feedback. There's a buzz.
No, I think that's a Coke. I think it's unplug the Coke machine.
Okay.
Yeah, just unplug it. There
Thank
go.
you. Thank you. Problem solved. Okay, so we have this easement agreement. There were 3 little amendments to it after talking with the owner of Longhorn for clarification. No citizen comments. Any council comments?
I move we accept the easement agreement as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the easement agreement with the 3 small amendments, and there's been seconded by Anderson. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, moving back to regular agenda item number 5, discuss and consider quotes for piers or blocks and moving service requirements for the annex building. Okay, so last time we discussed, and we had to come back and look at it because we were getting some conflicting information. So it sounds like HR Dirtworks, Heath Ross had called while we were on site and was trying to talk with the fellow Northcutt who had given us a proposal for the moving, and I think possibly the phone service was bad. He was misunderstanding him. He was saying 45 piers were needed and actually after talking with Mr. Northcutt, he was saying he would put every 4 feet, he would put a 4-inch
Pad.
concrete block pad and 16 by 16, and then an 8-inch by 8-inch by 16 foot on top of that at every 4
Inch,
foot.
yeah.
It's 16 inch.
16 inch, what did I say?
Foot.
Excuse me, 16, a lot of numbers, 16 inch, not 16 foot, 16 inch. So you would have a total of 20 inches underneath that foundation, or underneath the annex building. So, I think with that clarification, I don't think in HR Dirtworks, he had solicited Lone Star as a favor to try and help us out because he said they have a great rates, and so, but if that is not needed, then that's $8,100 that's not needed.
Did we get clarity on concrete versus Bodart blocks?
So Northcutt said he doesn't use Bodart stump, he uses the concrete.
Yeah, just cinder blocks.
But it's kind of a way to speak about it, but it's,
Right.
yeah.
I started getting a little concerned about termite transmission and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's actually concrete.
So how many total blocks are we looking at now?
Well, so Northcutt said he actually, every 4 foot, he will put the 4-inch pad and then the other 16-inch, so it's in a total of 20 inches underneath the foundation every 4 feet, and then he levels it.
And that comes up to approximately 45 pads.
Yes.
And that's included in the 35?
That's in his bid, which seems very reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't,
That includes all the blocking.
Okay.
That's the process.
so we have, and he just said, look, you just get me a good pad, meaning dirt, okay, select fill, that's compacted, and we can do this.
So to be clear, the 4 feet, that's a total grid, under, around, everything. I mean, because if I'm going to look at it, I want to make sure That's what we're agreeing to. And it's not the 45, though?
Well,
It's about
he
45.
said it was about 45, so
Okay.
apparently, because of the bad cell service, Mr. Ross thought he was saying 45 piers, he was actually saying 45 of, I don't know how he
Paths.
described it, because I was not, I was just a bystander.
Okay, I think I
So-
understand now.
Okay. Okay, so do we have any, now I did solicit from the council to try and find additional quotes other than Northcutt. Was there any council that came up with anything additional?
Not anywhere near that price.
No.
So-
Tar, did he say approximately when he could do this?
Well, he is pretty backed up, but I told him we have a deadline, and he said, yeah, everyone has a deadline. But he said, you get it ready, and I'll come look at it.
So the site is pretty much ready, I
I know
believe.
Tom's been out there regularly, and it's getting ready. Now, we'll talk about on our next item some of the getting ready. So this is a tremendous price. In fact, the other fellow said, look, if he can do it for $3,500, I can't even compete with that. He's not making any money, so,
Okay.
So 3,500 to pick the building up, move it, reset it, level it. We've got citizen Brett donated 75, up to 7,500, right? Towards the cost, so we are well within that donation. And probably could use some of the other to skirt it or something to.
We also, when I was there on Friday, it looked like we weren't going to use all the dirt that we had assigned, or all the select fill.
and
So-
we can
Let's talk about that.
talk
later.
about that probably on the next item, but yeah. So do we have a motion to accept this, or?
I'd make a-
Oh, yes, citizens,
sure.
okay. 5. It's Kevin Sinkovich, Chad West, Kenzie Salisbury, Shelley Smith, Patrick Smith, Lori Roman, okay, Chad, oh, I'm sorry, Chad's not on here, okay. All right, so, okay, any other thoughts on that?
I'll make a motion, we approve Northcutt's price to move the building.
No, second.
Okay, that motion to accept Northcutt's quote has been made by Fowler, seconded by Anderson. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Okay, number 6, discuss and consider expectations from the Campground Community Cemetery regarding the usage of the annex of the town hall and moving plans and other potential cost. So I did reach out to Wesley. My goodness, they've been through it. His wife has been in and out of the hospital. I think she's finally in rehab. So he's just had his hands full. Goodness. So I did reach out to him on Sunday. I haven't heard back. I don't think they've had a meeting. So as far as from their end, I don't know anything definitively yet. But as far as our costs go, I did try and come up with a little spreadsheet. This is not saying, this is just off the top of my head, things that I know, and I even left off, and Tom reminded me that we will have to have a survey by the original survey company, which we think might be around $700. We're just kind of putting it out there of possible expenses. And to your point, Brian, we have only used 10 loads of select fill so far. I'm estimating we'll need another 5 if the council approves. I think we've talked with a couple of you. After getting out there, okay, so there was a pond dam there, and then I think we decided to go ahead and cut that down. Now we're thinking, okay, let's go ahead and fill that pond in for several reasons. 1, it won't be a snake pit. 2, it will be less dirt that we have to build up to because the rest of the land is low. 3 is he's already made kind of a path, and the whole issue was the water, right? So it comes from the north end, and the water he's already rerouted to make kind of a dry creek area. So, but it is a little extra work for Mr. Hall to cover the pond over. He hasn't done it yet, was just there this afternoon. And he has got the pad, which looks really nice, and again, it's about 10 loads, but we're thinking to fill in the pond, he actually prefers to use some of the topsoil from Longhorn because it has some clay in it, and then on top of that, add some sand and mix it. He says that gives you the best foundation, like if you were to use that part too. And so I'm guesstimating that we may only need around 15, and so that would lower our cost to $3,375 from Royce City Sand and Gravel. Because again, we were going to try and build up to 4.5 feet to match it down, and now we're cutting that down so that it doesn't have to be so high, and that just saves money, and it's going to look better too, and it's going to be so the pond also would inhibit the septic. So when you have a septic, you can't put it within so many feet of a pond, and so that makes that difficult. So I think, is the council in agreement that we kind
Well,
of want to get rid of that pond?
Yeah, and I guess two things. One is, another one you didn't mention is mosquitoes. It is going to draw mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and secondly, I
It's-
guess moving the dirt from Longhorn is going to be an extra cost, but it's going to be, we think, relatively small within this budget.
No, Roger thought that the extra work would be around $700. But you take away the extra dirt, then I think we're still looking at
At less,
less
Yeah.
overall, so.
yeah. And
So,
Sorry. No, I guess I would say we have, in my mind, if we're going to do it, we have to cover that pond. There's too many negatives with it. And what is the cheapest way to do it? And that's to spend some money to bring in the soil from Longhorn and then subsequently come in on top of that or with
the
it,
select
with
fill.
the select fill sand. And that's still cheaper than what we estimated, but we have to do it in retrospect.
so Longhorn donated the soil. They said you can have it. And so now if anyone needs some fish, there's a few fish in that pond, but it's pretty much evaporated. And we've been actually sump pumping water onto the new area. So there's a lot of water that has gone to blend the select fill with the current dirt, and he's been mixing it up to kind of get a nice compaction. And so, so it's gotten pretty low, but there are a few fish if you have a heart for that and you want to pull them out.
So Tara, to your earlier question, I don't have any affinity for the pond, but I do remember what Kevin told us last week, and I just wonder, you indicated that it was kind of a buffer, right? It would, if you got a lot of water, it would sort of cushion that water beyond the pond a little bit by taking some. So I guess now we're going to just shed everything. It's just going to basically go across.
Do you want to speak to that, Kevin?
I mean, I don't know that that's a huge issue. I don't know how much land is draining there, but
Yes, I encourage you to go by and see what he actually did. Roger was reroute the water was coming into the pond and doing the swirl and going out to actually move it further away from the building and route it towards what was a historical dry creek that was running right through the center of the property. So
Okay.
I think he covered his bases pretty well there.
excellent. Thank you.
So it looks like the net cost to the town, even with an additional $700 that Mr. Hall said to cover that pond, would still be a net cost to the town with the generous donation by Brett to cover the moving is $3,700.
I'm sorry, Chad, could you step up to the microphone, please?
33,750 plus 3,000 plus 700 plus 8,500.
I'm assuming that's all addition.
Oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. So that's why haste makes way. So it's additional.
So the total cost of the town, $7,075.
Yes.
What sheet are we
So-
working off of?
This in the packet, this cost projections for the annex.
So
I don't think we have it.
that was just something I tried to. Again, this is not comprehensive. This is just something we tried to work on today to try and figure out where we are
And
and
just
where
for
we're going.
clarification, is the donation 3,500, or I thought you said 75?
7,500.
Well, yes, he said he would cover the cost of moving, and then on down here, he said, look, he would give up to 7,500, but, and this to our next point is,
I don't care which way, which number it is, I'm just trying to figure out which way. the math is.
7,500, but it's only going to cost 35.
Which is
So-
fine, I just,
So the donation at that point would be 35.
the net cost to the town, 7,075. not
7,075. You're absolutely correct. My apologies.
Thanks for calling that out.
Whoops. So, that's where, okay, so, having trouble with the summation on Excel. All right, so, the carpentry needed to weather in the annex building, it's unknown, and that's where, Brett Patterson could come in, because he could pay the carpenter directly, perhaps, because we don't really know that cost, and to have to stop and have a council meeting to approve that would be cumbersome, because once we take that building away from the current sanctuary, there will be siding that has to happen and a little bit of a roof line that has to happen, and so in order for it to be weathered in. And I don't know what that would would cost. I don't even know the dimensions of that because I can't really measure it. It's up against the sanctuary right now. I mean, so Brett he was going to be here tonight, but he has another meeting. But he said that he was willing to cover that carpentry cost for us because that's part of the moving, but he recognized that the moving was only $3,500, and then he would pay additional up to $3,500 for, whatever else was needed. But that could go directly to keep it from having to go through council necessarily, because when you're in construction, it would be cumbersome to have to have another meeting to do all that. So he said he could pay him directly if the council is okay with that.
Okay, so what's the direct ask to divert some of the dirt funds from Royce City to the labor associated with moving the top fill or the topsoil from Longhorn Organics? Is that the direct
So I
ask
guess
that we're talking
so what council needs to approve or disapprove or discuss is the $700 more work that it's going to take to cover that pond by Mr. Hall Right-of-Way Services, because that wasn't in the original quote.
Right, so that $700 goes to haul for the topsoil move, but we have a reduction in cost of the select fill. Okay,
Right, so we budgeted, on this sheet at least, I see 4,050 for dirt, and we're saying we're not using all of that dirt? Okay. So how much less
225 a
dirt?
load. How many loads did you think we wanted?
So that's $675 decrease on the dirt, and then, so is $25,
So you need us
more.
to vote on $25.
but then we're giving it to Hall Right-of-Way Services rather than Royce City Sand and Gravel, so.
I got a 20 in my wallet. Anybody
I'm
else?
good with that, we got a bake sale.
But yeah,
All right, do we have a motion to approve the $700 for the additional pond coverage work?
with the inclusion of the,
You only need $25.
Now, it's $25 additional dollars, you're correct.
This is an accounting move,
Right.
basically, from the one account with
And-
Royce City to one account with.
Right, but we don't want to get a
Hall.
$4,000 bill and we approve 700. 'cause Now
Correct,
we
so
just went up.
that's what I was about to say. We want to make sure that when we approve the 700 for Hall to move the dirt, then we also are approving the reduction in the expense to Royce City.
Right, so we would
Sand.
make a motion to reallocate $700 out of Royce City's budget item or 675 to the Hall right-of-way and add an additional 25 for a total of,
But before we do that, it would be good to hear from the
Okay.
And
citizens.
also, one more thing, I don't think we change anything with the sand and gravel. If we don't use it all, that month, we've approved a threshold, so we don't have to approve to reduce it. So they may use 15 loads, but what if they use 14, then we got to vote to reduce it again? So we've approved that threshold. All we need to do is approve the additional 700,
And
the additional work.
I agree with that, actually.
Fine.
So, right, and so actually, Roger Hall has said, you know, he's actually gonna take some of that Longhorn dirt and use it, because that select fill is basically sand. And he said that he's gonna use it along to keep that sand from eroding, so he's gonna use some of the topsoil and put it on the side, and and put that on the side, and then also blend it, so.
So I agree with Terry. We just look at the $700.
Okay.
Do we want to spend it in it? No, it's going to come against the sand budget that we're probably not going to use all of it. But I make a motion, we accept the 700, which is going to moving the clay from Longhorn, the clay soil from Longhorn, into the mosquito/snake pit adjacent to the site.
Okay, before we had citizens come up, and I agree with you, Tom, I did, you asked me when we were on site to kind of brainstorm about things that are needed. We talked about the survey, the $700. We talked about the septic engineer is $350. I did ask for a cost projection on the gravel for the driveway, and Mr. Hall suggested, when we put gravel in, to put a fabric liner underneath, and it keeps the gravel from soaking into the soil, and it really makes a difference, because, you know, over time, it goes deeper and deeper, and then you've lost your gravel and you have grass there. And that is the easement area. I think it would serve twofold. It would maybe protect that area and then keep us from having to keep reapplying gravel every so often. So he said that would be about $700, and the gravel is about $600 or so. But that's another cost associated with the move, unless we want to all step in mud to get to the city hall, town hall, then we'll have to consider that too. Installing a metal gate, 4-foot metal gates, like $250. So there's some other little costs involved. I did talk with Philip Keys about the water meter. He said they would put it on the agenda, trenching the water line. I did have a call in to Carl Crow about the septic. I didn't get a hold of him. I did contact
Are you
Encore.
thinking about moving the septic? I know you had that discussion.
I know there's some, and that's something to discuss on this council. I've heard from at least one of you. I don't know how you feel about that. The money, the townspeople who contributed to the flea market, it was the flea market money went into my safe for a year, and that money was directly used to buy that septic, because he donated his labor. So it was the community flea market money that paid for that septic directly.
Under what auspices, though? And I wish we could have these conversations and bring you guys answers rather than having to go back. But again, when every check that I wrote was to the campground cemetery. So when people were donating, were they donating to the town? In which case, then I would love to see that we have the septic system. But I believe that people were donating to the campground cemetery, in which case I don't believe that we have ownership of that septic system.
Well, so the flea market was a fundraiser for the Town of Poetry City Hall, because we were refurbishing the annex portion.
Okay, I'll look back on
And
the poetry posts and everything. Again, for me, it goes back to donor intent, whether or not it's what I personally want. I just think we need to make sure that we're following that intent, and if the documentation and everything was
But-
restore the church, then
Brian, the church, the sanctuary, they've already said, campgrounds, that they think it needs to be destroyed. There's
Agreed.
nothing that, anybody that contributed did not contribute to the campground. They contributed to the annex in the Town of Poetry.
I contributed to the campground.
So there's absolutely no basis that I see for saying this is campgrounds septic. It's our septic. Now, having said that, first thing first, we got to get the building moved. That, we've got a month to do.
Agreed.
And we need to focus on that, but then the septic, that's our septic, that's not campgrounds, because unless campground hasn't come off and said, hey, we've got another building that we want to use. No, that, right now, they've said they're going to destroy what's left of the sanctuary, so therefore, there's nothing there. Now, we don't know what their plans are, and I'm suspicious they have other plans. Nonetheless, people of poetry, including myself, contributed thinking this was for poetry, not campground. And I would doubt anybody would have taken a position
Right, but I
like
think it
that.
comes back to, Tom, the lease and leasehold improvements and the terms of all of that. I mean, you know, quite often when you lease a piece of property, you give up, and we had these discussions months ago, some of the improvements, right? I mean, you can't like take the shingles back off the roof, or you can't take the siding. Those things are considered, you know, part of the permanent structure. So I'm not sure that the septic would fall into that category.
Okay, we have some citizens. Chad McFarland? He has not signed up to speak. Can you come and state your address, please? Thank you. Mhm.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. Is it my understanding that a septic report has not, or septic engineering report has not been performed yet?
No, it was performed before it was installed.
No, I'm talking about at the new site.
Oh, at the new site? No, sir.
Okay, so we have a pond, we have drainage, and a limited 1 acre lot, and we're talking about putting a building on it, but we don't have a septic report yet?
We have
That
to
same-
orientate the building before we know where that's going to go.
Yeah, it seems to be taking a risk there, especially with the fact that there's a pond and the drainage there, that there might be some issues getting a septic approved.
That's one reason we're doing away with the pond.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm concerned we're gonna get to a point and you're gonna get the building where you want it, and then you're gonna have the septic engineers come out, and they're gonna say, this isn't gonna work.
I did
So-
talk with a septic engineer to allay your fears, and he said he was familiar because he wasn't concerned.
Okay? I hope that doesn't come back and bite us like some
No,
other things have.
I understand your concern, and that's one reason that we are doing away with the pond, to make it easier. Yep,
What is I mean, we've talked before about Hunt County has a minimum lot size for septic.
1 acre.
1 acre. Is Kaufman the same?
I'm sorry, Hunt County, when I talked to them last, was 1.5. Kaufman, it was 1.
Okay. Assuming the soil is supportive of it, I guess.
Yeah. And I've had 2 septic systems installed within 300 yards of this place, or 400, recently, so I'm fairly familiar with the soil out there, but we do need that report, so we know for sure.
Good
Kevin
point.
Singovich? Chad West? I don't know. We're just asking citizens' comment. Well, we have option to do that. So, but I think we've pretty much talked about what is needed as far as we know right now. So, okay. Kinsey Salisbury? Shelley Smith?
Shelley Smith, 18730 FM 1565. It seems to me that there's a lot of finish out stuff about the building that we haven't even addressed at all, like running electricity, putting in sidewalks, what's the cost of the water meter, the cost of the septic, what's the cost of the repair to campground cemetery property, what's the cost of the siding that needs to be added to it, the roof line repair, and I think you said covering the pond was, I forget, 700, something like that. We haven't addressed any of those kind of things, and there's an awful lot of finish out when you put in a house. It's not just the house. Landscaping, have y'all talked about that at all? Because it's not been said at meetings. And I think that adds a lot to the cost. Any thoughts?
So I'll take your last first. So the master gardeners did say that they wanted to do some sort of landscaping package. So I'm kind of glad they didn't put it at the last location. So the new location, they may contribute to that. We've had a lot of great volunteers thus far over the two and a half years. So there is no debt currently. So I did, like I mentioned, the water meter would go before the board. Encore sent, there is a pole right there, so I think the cost would be fairly minimal.
Like what? What would be the cost of the?
I don't know yet. I've submitted for them to come out and give me a quote on that, but I just filed the report, so I don't know. There are a few costs, but again, we've been able to do it for the last two and a half years, debt-free with community volunteers and community funds. And Brett did say he would contribute $3,500 to finishing out the carpentry work or whatever was needed for the move.
It seems to me you need to get a commitment from these people, or you need to put it on the budget for moving the building. And then also I'd like to know, who was the septic engineer you talked to?
Kevin, what is his name? James. Oh, hang on. James Adams. And his report was $350. And as soon as we get the building in orientation, that's something we need to. I wanted to have Mr. Hall finish his pond work, and then I wanted to each of the council members to come out and look at and decide where you. I don't want to make the decision alone. How you want the building orientated on the property, but I think the pond coverage needs to happen first because it changes. I mean, it's already changed, don't you think, Tom and Brian? It's already changed so much, and I think we need to see that before we can decide that. Anyway, side note.
Okay, typically city property is never done on the fly. There's site plans drawn up and
But that also
budgets.
costs a lot of money to do site plans.
Yeah, well, it's city property. You have to.
Well, I don't know that we have to.
Well, you have to have your ducks in a row, and I don't think we do. I think we're winging too much and just saying, oh, somebody will volunteer for it. I have a real serious discomfort with that, and I hope that you guys are kind of thinking, don't we kind of need a complete plan? Just saying.
Yeah,
So.
I think you bring up some good points, Shelley. In a perfect world, we would have a budget all the way to the end, because we could easily have quite a bit of expenditure. My personal sort of thought on this is each one of those expenses is going to be brought to this council, and we may not have a sidewalk, and we may not have a toilet, and if we don't think it's kind of an ad hoc way of dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news is Tara doesn't have, nor do any of us, an open checkbook to spend your money and our money. So it may be a little bit of a rough journey, but we're going to look at each one of those costs when it comes up. And if we don't have a donor,
And I think back to the Poetry Community School, of which my husband and I were founders, it was very much the same way. And so it was, a lot of that was, they build it as the money comes in, and it was very much an old-fashioned barn raising. And so a small town, I think it's very doable that way.
See, I guess in my mind, I'm thinking state property has certain rules and guidelines, and I don't know what they are. And I'm sure they're probably more than a very small private school. And I appreciate the way the school was built, but a serious plan, sometimes a bargain's not a bargain if it's going to end up biting you in the butt later on.
Okay? All right, Patrick Smith? Okay, Lori Rasmussen? Okay. All right. Any other comments by council? Again, we're checking with the water meter, checking with Encore for the electrical pole. Trenching the water line needs to happen. That was something that we had volunteers do a great job on. No, unless you're signed up, I'm so sorry. Yeah, you had to be signed up to speak.
So-
Um,
So the only decision right now is the $700.
Right, that's the one on
That's
hand.
what we need to vote
We have a
on.
motion, and that's been seconded or not?
Well,
I'll
I thought we was
second it.
getting the expectations from Campground Cemetery.
And we don't have that yet, but we can vote on the $700 expenditure by Mr. Hall to finish plowing over the pond. Okay, so we have a motion by Anderson to allow Hall right-of-way services to cover the pond for the additional $700. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
it.
Okay, and that's seconded by Fowler. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously.
And I guess, Shelley, we do, everybody appreciates what you're saying, and if we had more time, I think we would like to do that, what you said, but we're up against a time limit with the campground, who we don't trust. They've given us, we've got another month, and we want to get that building off of there before they change their mind or do something different. And that's really our constraint right now. But we do understand what you're saying, and we agree, and we'd like to do that.
Just for clarification, I don't want to use the word not trust.
Yeah.
I trust them. They've been gracious to us, but we have a deadline and we don't know what the consequences
Well,
are.
we
for
want,
not
I
meeting
feel
that.
like we want to honor what they
Yeah,
have,
absolutely.
have requested
I
of us.
understand
We're
what you're
trying
saying.
really
It's
hard to
not
honor
trust.
that, and so,
Yeah, and I think to your point, Terry, I want to go on record too. I don't want it, I don't have an issue with the campground people either way, so I don't want it to feel like there's a unanimous opposition or distrust for the, I mean, Tom, you have concerns, and that's fine. I don't have any concerns with them. I mean, I know a number of the people and all of that. I think it's unfortunate we ended up where we did, but
well,
I
and
don't
I'm
have any-
personally grateful for the gift.
yeah, I don't have any ill
And we
will
will
towards them.
have our own, you know, we have our own land now. We'll have a building, and so, you know, I believe all things work together for good. So, here we are. So let's move on. All right, number 7, discuss and consider payment of 2 to 4 invoices due by end of the fiscal year dated May 25th from Texas Municipal Law Firm. We were, our council wanted to have an executive session for this. I nixed that. I didn't think that was necessary. That's more expense. And so, we basically, now we're not allowed to share rates. That's confidential, but we do have some invoices from January through, again, I've only seen, prior to this, we had 1 invoice. And so these 4 that were submitted May 25th, they actually took off thousands of dollars from what they could have charged us. And so I'm grateful for that, thousands of dollars in discounts. So we have, I guess the oldest one is $1,800.27, or $1,827.34. The next one is $7,245.99, for a total of $9,073.33. I would like to see us pay at least those 2,
Wait a minute, Tara.
if possible. Now, I mean,
Those aren't the right numbers.
Which invoice
well, I
numbers are you
mean,
referring
I'm
to?
looking at the oldest one. You
So
could combine it
invoice-
any way you want.
Yeah, but
No.
There's
invoice
4.
16623 from February?
If January is 1827 plus
Mm-hmm.
change, February after their discount is 1801, March after the discount is 1808, April after the discount is 1810. The total of those is 7246.
Isn't that what I just said?
I'm sorry?
That's what I just said.
You said 9,000 something.
No, I was combining the 1827 with 7245. That's a total for those 2 of those the combination. So the 7245.99 plus the 1827.34
Where's
is
the
what,
1827
No.
come from?
That's included.
1827.
In January?
That's included, Tara.
Should be included. January, February, March, April should be
Yeah, the 4 months, the total after discounts is
Okay, so I have
7246.
invoice here, 16,554, and then a separate invoice of 16625. So those are two separate invoices.
625.
Is that not correct?
I have 16624, 23, and 25, 23, 24, and 25.
Yeah, we have 4 invoices.
And 554.
We have 16554 for 1827, 16625 for 7245.99.
Hold on. What number?
Whoa,
1665, you said? Okay.
And then we have another one for invoice 16623 for 3628.27.
that's for February.
And I'm just going by invoice numbers because dates
Yeah.
just
They're
make
all
it more
numerical, though.
confusing.
They match
Well,
up.
wait a minute, but they were cumulative by month.
Mhm.
And so January was 1827,
That's
February is
554.
3628,
Hold on, hold on.
Okay.
March is 5436 after discount. I'm sorry. Now back up. January is 1827, February is 1801, which totals 3628. March is 1808, which brings the total to 5436. April is 1810, which brings the total to 7246, roughly.
Okay, so yes, Tom, I was trying to maybe combine two where our bill would be, we'd pay approximately 9,000 this month and then later pay approximately 9,000.
Well,
But we don't have to.
9,000?
Huh?
No.
418s is only 7,200.
Yes, the 4 months.
Well-
I think what happened is that each billing month, they're accumulating the
forward.
previous billing
Right.
months. So
Yes.
I think you may be
That's
double
correct.
counting the invoices.
Yeah, so you have to go by month. And when you go by month, the total we owe them for the 4 months is 7246 plus
Right.
change.
Yeah, so we don't want to write them a check for 9. I think that the other concern, guys, is the run rate. I mean, I appreciate that they're discounting this, but they've told us they're going to stop doing that.
Right.
But I mean, we had a $3,600 month, we had a $7,200 month, we had a $5,400 month. I mean, we're not hitting our $1,800 budget very good at all.
Nope.
So,
So they did say that for July, we had, 2 hours plus whatever the agenda took. So we're actually, and not having them here, because when they come, it's at least $1,200. So by not having them here, we're saving automatically.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and again, we didn't really know how they charge because we've only gotten one other bill besides these 4.
And we did address some
And we-
mechanisms for reducing the bill. in
We
the
have
previous
made
session.
some mechanisms. One of those is, of course, not having them here
Right.
and just consulting them via phone rather than like having all of us email them individually. That eats up a lot of time. She said just if we can have that, 2 30-minute phone calls a month, that will save us. And so, so we have made vast changes to make these changes.
Right now, we're looking at 72, approximately 46, right?
but wait,
72,
but the agenda item says to pay 2. So are we going to pay
224.
3,600 or are we going to pay 7,200?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that is the law firm.
It's the municipal law firm.
We're paying the Texas Municipal Law Firm.
Yeah, no, it's in their logo. It's their little subtitle.
No, it says the municipal law firm, not Texas Municipal Law Firm. Messer Fort McDonald, the municipal
Ooh,
law firm.
good point.
Now, in their
The amount is
emails, it says Texas Municipal Law Firm, but,
It is a Texas municipal law firm.
Let's-
Okay,
yeah,
but
let's-
well, I'm sure we'll get the check to the right.
But to go by oldest first, January and February total 3628 plus change. The total for all 4 months through April totals about 7246. So, I mean, my feeling is, why don't we pay all of it?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You
And,
would pay all of
know,
it?
In
Okay.
personal, I like to keep some reserve But, you know, in business or in municipalities, money's kind of a liability. You don't want too much sitting around, or else all of a sudden you start looking real good for a lawsuit. So if we can settle the debt, get rid of some of that burden, it's
Now,
good by me.
I'm all for settling this debt, but I'm going to channel my inner Terry at this point. And to Mr. West's point, if this is not the agenda item that is listed, can we do it?
Actually, from Texas Municipal Law Firm, that is what they send to me via their email. So when their actual bill says Texas, I
Well,
believe.
here's the easiest part. It's due by the end of the fiscal year. Let's not make a mistake and just vote on it next time.
And just name,
Messer Ford
Well,
McDonald.
Andy was expecting a payment by the end of this month, I believe. At least something.
Which fiscal year, our fiscal year or their fiscal year?
I think most of them have the fiscal year as it ends in September. So they're, hang on.
It's on all their invoices.
Most are, yeah, most are, is what we were told when
We
we
had the chance to
decided.
mess that one up, and thankfully
Yeah.
it's one we got right.
Yes.
I would like to see this tabled until we get the agenda item corrected.
I don't have a problem.
I mean,
paying
she
it.
put it on the agenda.
Excuse me,
So I would think she would.
we have
Understood.
speakers. People
But-
want to
Yeah.
speak.
But before we get into that, aren't we due to pay within 120 days, or is it 90 days?
She said, well, they said officially we had 60.
60 days. Okay, well then, I would
We're a
say
little
pay
behind.
7246, and then we're okay.
Well, I guess the issue is the agenda item is,
It's not the amount
it's
that's in
for a
question.
law firm, but not our law firm,
This is the.
maybe.
Well, it's the only law firm we have. I mean, it's kind of splitting hairs in my
Yeah.
book. I think it's a little bit splitting hairs. Like, we only have one law firm.
Yeah,
We have some speakers lined up.
okay.
So their emails come Texas Municipal Law. So that is, Texas Municipal Law is how all their emails come.
All the signatures I've seen have been the partners' names, though, in their
So
email
I
signatures.
really-
mean,
I
I
mean,
understand what you're saying,
yeah.
but Microsoft Incorporated is the legal business name, whereas Microsoft.com is their website and their email address. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking legalities here, and that's my point of concern. And it's funny that we're talking about the legalities with our law firm. But,
Let's hear from the citizens just in
Yeah,
case.
would-
Yes,
at what
okay.
point? There we
So
go.
Chad McFarland?
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. So it's my understanding that the average monthly bill is 1,800, give or take a
That's the
few
budget.
dollars.
After
then-
discounts.
How much, without the discounts, would those monthly bills? I'm not asking for hourly rate, I just want to know
Okay,
what our bill would be if they weren't giving us a deal.
okay,
on
the
these
4
months.
months total, it's 19,590. It's 3123 for January, 4671 for February, 7624 for March, and 4172 for April. Total 19,590, and then 12,344 discount leaves what we are due to pay is 7246 for January through April.
So we're using 225% of budgeted legal services. Okay, I hope y'all have made some serious steps on reining this in.
We need to
And
lose
as-
their phone number and email address.
And as for what they were expecting when payment was, and may have heard me say it, I think the town was expecting sales tax, so what they were expecting when they get paid is really not a big concern of mine.
Thanks, Jed.
Okay, Kevin Sinkovich.
Kevin Sinkovich, 11090 CR 2400. Can you approve payment of the bill and on contingency that you've got the proper name?
I don't have a problem paying the bill. I mean, I guess me and Brian's on the same page on this deal. I just don't think we can vote on it because it's not what's on the agenda.
Well, it is, I think that
Their
I don't know if I don't know if I agree with
Their
that.
invoices doesn't mention Texas Municipal Law Firm. I get what the email says, but to Brian's
Mm-hmm.
point, the company name on here is Messer Fort McDonald, the municipal law firm. So I don't have a problem paying the bill. I'm so overwhelmed with their graciousness. I'm not gonna withhold a check. But, I mean, I just
So
don't
you
think
want to
we
have
can
a
vote on
special
this.
meeting to
Well, I
approve
don't
a
want the
check?
threat of a special meeting because I won't agree with you, but this agenda item is not what we're voting on.
So what do we risk by waiting until the next meeting? I know they'd like to see the money sooner, but we're gonna pay all 4 bills, so surely that compensates somewhat. What do?
Well,
Okay, we're
is
not
that,
missing the
is you
deadline,
one
right?
council member, so is that agreeable by the council?
Well, waiting, I'm asking you, if we
Mm-hmm.
wait, are there any ramifications, any late?
Well, I
fees,
guess the
any-
one I would
anything?
raise is they could change their mind on these discounts. I said, I think we should take it while we got it and write them a check for $72.46 and we're done.
I'll vote on it any other time, but I won't support you tonight just because the agenda item's wrong.
Okay, so,
What could we change it, make a motion to change it to Messer Fort McDonald?
It's posted, you can't.
No?
Yeah, and that doesn't give citizens the ability to read the agenda and understand what's being discussed.
okay, we have no other law firm.
I understand,
I
but
really think it's splitting hairs, y'all.
We
I
have
just-
other speakers waiting.
Okay, so Shelley Smith, or I'm sorry, she's Chad Kinsey, did you?
I think whenever it gets
Address.
decided that it does get paid, that y'all will go ahead and just pay all 4. So,
Okay,
Address?
20579 North Highway 34.
Thanks.
okay.
Thanks,
thank
sir.
you, Thank you, Kinsey. All right, so Councilmember White has suggested that. Is that something that the council is nodding their heads on, that you want to? Because then I could go back and say, hey, they didn't want to vote on it because of the wording, but next month, we'll pay you in full if we kind of know that the council is in agreement on that, a non-formal agreement.
Well,
We can
we're-
do that, just like a workshop. We
We're
kinda
really
know.
good at special meetings, so we could not.
We might have to have a special meeting anyway regarding some of the construction and the orientation of the building, so it might be we just throw it on there.
I do agree with Terry and Brian's point that, because I'm kind of with Tom of just write them a check, we know what we meant. But, you know, I think part of our struggle as a council, this is my personal opinion, is we are not earning the respect of all of our citizens when we make these little wiggly moves, right? That just don't follow the rules, you know, letter for letter. And so I think we need to be careful. As much as we want to be a town that just sort of does the right thing, we also need to be able to be held accountable. If somebody's familiar with the Robert's Rules of Orders and other things that we're supposed to be holding ourselves to, they should be able to come in here and expect a certain behavior. And if we deviate from that, then I think our reputation gets besmirched, so.
Okay, so Shelley Smith? Did I? I thought he just talked.
Chad?
I'm sorry, did I miss you? I'm sorry, it was not intentional. I apologize. Chad McFarland, okay. Kinsey.
Yeah, I guess the one thing from an accounting perspective, from the last meeting, you know, the council made a commitment that we're going to rein in the attorney's fees. Why can't we take it as an actual cost, less a discount for the total $1,810 or whatever it is? But that way, the citizens of the town actually see what's being spent. From an accounting perspective, you would accrue the entire $7,200, reduce it, less discount for an actual incurred expense to the town. Because otherwise, I understand we can't see the bills because depending on what's on there, may be attorney-client privilege, but we should be able to see the total dollar amount of what's spent, less a discount, and an actual cost.
I'd have to, I guess we'd have to reach out to the attorneys and make sure that they're good with that. I mean, I think.
Well, we're not disclosing the number of hours or names, so they're not going to be able to do the math to figure it out. It's just to
Yeah.
Chad's point, I've done that before in past lives where it's sort of, our exposure was this, our actual was much less, but it retained that information for future learning and.
Yeah, I guess my understanding was Andy Messer didn't want us discussing their worksheets.
Yeah.
Which has the rates and what they did. And we're not discussing that, we're only discussing the total and the total discount and the net.
So
Well,
to,
And he didn't say anything about not providing
yeah,
that.
to
Okay,
Chad's
I don't
point.
have a problem with it, I just do want to, because they may not want other towns to expect that discount as well.
Well, that may be
that
true,
could
but
be.
since we're going to be stickler for the rules, he didn't say that.
Well,
I
He
don't know
just-
if we can expect that discount any longer.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I know, right? So I would think that on this next meeting that we would definitely address that. Shelley Smith?
Shelley Smith, FM, where do I live? 18730 FM 1565. I can tell you from personal experience that the agenda and the way it's written, we set a precedence for splitting hairs. Also, didn't the attorneys approve the agenda?
They do, generally, in trying to save money, they had put the executive session on there. I nixed that. And so they wanted to put this in the executive session. So actually, this error was my fault.
Ah, okay.
All right, so Shelley, Patrick. Okay, Lori.
Okay, I get where you want to make this perfect, and I think pretty much everyone here understands we have one law firm. And you're saying that you want to make sure that because we're human, we make errors, but on this, we want to be absolutely perfect. But weren't you guys just telling us that we have a very limited amount of time, so building the annex and moving it, we're going to do whatever we need to do to get it done. We're not going to follow the rules. We're just going to do whatever we need. Everybody here understands we have one law firm. She's got emails, has the name on it. I don't think there's anybody here that's going to deny that's our law firm. They go by, this is the big corporate name. These are the attorneys. This is the small class of attorneys working under this name, under a bigger group of people. That's all it is. It's a bigger group with a smaller office. That's all it is. We are not sticklers, or you would be sticklers in following all the rules for moving the building and everything else that goes with it. We are a small town that's trying to get started. We don't know all the rules. We're not perfect. She doesn't have all the help she needs to go over everything she's doing. She's doing a great job. You all are. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have said that about you, okay? I can guarantee that. I don't always say that now, but I understand the stress you guys are going under. Give her a break. She's got emails. If anybody wants to see it, I'm sure she'll let you see it to prove. We need to pay our bills. Let her pay the bill, okay? Thank you.
So I appreciate your comments, and I would throw in that, we've had some agendas in the past, and some of the people are in the room, where people came expecting to be able to discuss whatever was submitted, and they weren't allowed to discuss it because the wording was such that. So we need to be careful, right? Because if it falls in your favor, it's okay to change the line if it falls in somebody else's favor. We've been really good about holding the line, so I think we need to decide, or are we gonna, I don't think, and I will defend Tara, and I appreciate your honesty saying it was a mistake. I think it was. I don't think it was malicious. We're not trying to send money to some fake law firm. Yeah, I think it's no, she said it was. She said she typed that word, that the lawyers did not look at it. She typed it, and I appreciate that. And I hate special meetings, but I will submit to a special meeting if that's what it takes, or I'll even call Andy and explain to him.
Well, and to your concerns, I know there's a couple others agreeing with Lori on that. We probably, we're probably going to have a special meeting anyway to discuss the orientation, because I'm not making that decision.
Discuss what?
The orientation of the building. So hopefully it'll be quick and painless, but we could add this so that the bill can get paid,
Yeah, do it
pretty
quickie.
promptly. Today is the 19th, so,
Well, it says the end of the fiscal year. I just don't see the rush not to get it right. I'm gonna vote to pay these people, but it says by the end of the fiscal year. There's not a rush. We have a chance to make this right. To Tom's point that we're in a hurry on that building, we are. That has a deadline on it. This deadline's a little further down the road.
That's true.
I mean, just get it right, guys. I get we've made a ton of mistakes, but here we recognize a mistake before we made it.
Okay, so on Thursday, when you guys got the packet, did anyone notice this mistake?
I did not.
Okay, so
A
we need,
citizen pointed out to us.
we need a lot of proofreaders, and so without a city secretary to proof, I really appreciate your help. And so now that we're trying to do it a little earlier, it's
The agenda's
a lot.
posted when we get it, isn't it?
No, it's not. So
thought
we
we posted
voted
it
to have
120
you
days.
we voted to have you guys
Okay.
get it, but it's not posted until the 72-hour mark, or trying to do it before, but again, without a secretary, it's like doing a term paper. It's supposed to be a group project that falls on, it's just a lot of work. But anyway, okay, so I think if I'm gathering, you all want to maybe push this to the nearest meeting. Is that what I'm getting? Okay.
And get the name as
And get the-
Messer Fort McDonald or whatever it
Yes.
is. Right?
Okay.
And that's who the check, Tara, I guess the question is,
Who's
the
the check
check
go
would
to?
be written to,
So
that you and I signed.
I believe it is to Messer Fort McDonald. I'm looking on the June one, and it does say that on the
Okay.
check, so.
So do we need a motion to table it, or? is it
I don't know
pending or
that we
not?
need a motion.
Let's just
Okay,
make
we'll just
sure.
take
I'm
no
going to make
action.
sure you do.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
I-
who wants to make
I move that we
that?
table this to the next available meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vincent, seconded by Jaffe, to table this to the next available meeting. All those in favor? All right. Okay, number 8, discuss the Texas Comptroller's letter and report regarding the street maintenance tax.
On this one, street maintenance taxes, sales and use tax? Just
So
making sure.
that was written by the attorney. I wouldn't probably word that way, but that's, so I received this letter on 5/12. It was dated May the 3rd, and I'll just, if you don't have a packet, I can read it. So, dear Mayor Sinkovich, we have received the results of the election held in Hunt and Kaufman counties on November 3rd, 2020, in which the citizens in the community voted to incorporate the city of Poetry. We acknowledge that the city is now incorporated, and we have changed our records to reflect this status. We have also received the results of Poetry's November 2nd, 2021 election to adopt the additional city sales and use tax for municipal street maintenance and repair at a rate of 2% as permitted under Chapter 327 Texas Tax Code. The proposed sales and use tax adoption raises the city local sales and use tax to a rate of 2%. The city of Poetry is partially located, and that should be town of Poetry, is partially located in Hunt County, which has a county sales tax of 0.5%, making the proposed combined local rate 2.5% in the Hunt County portion of the city. This exceeds the 2% local tax and use tax cap imposed in Section 321.101 Tax Code and Section 327.003B. Tax Code, therefore, the comptroller is unable to implement the proposed sales and use tax rate adoption. If you have any questions, call me. So, Aubrey, when we had back in December, when Secretary Caroline and I were trying to contact them, we called 3 different times, got nobody. So it was nice to actually have a number to actually talk to, but of course, had a lot of questions on this, and then I have subsequent emails. It took a whole nother couple of weeks to even get clarification, like the ins and outs of what this meant. Finally, on June the 1st, we got kind of a solidification of what does this mean? So she said, she said basically, Aubrey Mashburn said she has to make this letter and call like 2 to 3 times per year, because the way the code is written, she said a lot of municipalities have this problem. In one part of the code, it says that you can truncate it or you can lessen it. So if you vote for 2%, you can go down to 1.5% is what it needs to be. Then other parts of the code doesn't allow for truncation. So she said it needs to be handled by the state legislature. They need to change the way that the state handles that, and that's a state legislature issue, because it's wasting all kinds of taxpayer money to hold elections where they're actually invalid. And so I think we asked all the right questions. I can remember Councilmember Fowler asking good questions. I had asked, isn't that too high? And they apparently, I don't know if they had a paralegal doing that. I don't know exactly how it all went down, but our legal department, remember, we were in office 6 weeks when this happened. We had been in office 6 weeks. We were counting heavily on our legal team because we were really, really new and fresh and a little bit terrified about everything. And so they wrote the ordinance, they wrote the ballot measure, and we did ask, I can remember Councilmember Fowler looking up different rates, and I can remember anyway. So it's very, very disappointing. It is extremely disappointing. And I went back and forth because even there, Marie was saying, oh, well, you can split it. Like you can have Kaufman County at 2% and Hunt County at 1.5%. And Aubrey said, no, you can't. And so there was a lot of back and forth, like, how does this work? And so I learned a lot through the process, but what I've learned is I need to go directly to Aubrey Mashburn and she did say this. She goes, if you do this again, come to me directly and I will approve your ballot measure language and we'll get it right. Aubrey Mashburn of the Texas Comptroller's Office. Because and actually when I first went to her, I said, hey, is there, like, can it be truncated? I mean, if the voters voted for 2%, then they would be fine with 1.5. It'd be different if it were the other way around. That would be egregious. You wouldn't allow a 1.5 to go up to 2, but it should be able to, and she goes, in some cases it's allowed to do that, but in this case, she said she checked with her supervisors, and that's why we went back and forth. She had to check with her supervisors. In this particular case, it's not allowed to do that.
So the monies that were collected by town businesses, that goes to the state now?
It wasn't implemented.
There's nothing been
Okay, so
implemented.
y'all have never, no one's ever, I thought we
No.
sent a letter out, or someone sent a letter out that there was.
There's never been,
Okay, so there hasn't
no.
been any money.
There's been absolutely no money
What's the
collected.
effects on our budget? Because I know we've thrown some money in our
Well,
budget.
we'll be doing that in the workshop, and, 100% of that goes to roads, right, road maintenance. And we're handling a workshop tonight for budget, and so that kind of, illuminates some of the processes there.
So Tara, to correct this, the next election is November, but we
Yes.
had to be on the ballot like way ahead, so what is our,
So that's why we're making sure we deal with this meeting. The deadline is August 22nd.
okay. So we
So-
basically have to put this to the citizens again for a vote for 1.5%. So the thing, to me, I recall what you were laying out as a discussion. The part I guess I don't remember us being aware of, I think it was an innocent mistake, was that Hunt County had 0.5%. I think we thought both counties were 0 and we could take the full 2.
Right.
Because we thought, let's take the 2, that's
Right.
reasonable. Some were taking higher and whatever, but, so I
And
think.
I even asked someone who has a business in Hunt County, and they didn't know Hunt County had a tax. I'm like, I didn't realize it.
Huh.
I
Okay.
didn't, yeah.
So we'd be starting over, so we would have to put everything together, get it reviewed.
Well, the We do have the language written, we just need to change that section to 1.5 and then send it to, apparently to Aubrey Mashburn, who is the deciding factor here.
And remind me,
And get it approved.
did Hunt
She is-
County handle that whole thing, or did we have to pay both counties?
We paid both counties.
Okay, and about how much was that?
Well, originally, we just got a bill from Kaufman for $550, and then just recently, like, I got a bill, very belated bill from Hunt County. And that was, and that will be seen, I guess, one of the meetings soon, $4,500.
So
Yeah.
$5,000.
And yes,
Wow.
I know, and that's painful. The only rational, I mean, the only way I can work that out in my head is that they did our law firm didn't charge us from February through November, almost an entire year. So I
Well,
guess
was
we're
that just
net-
for the sales tax, or was that for the election that got us up here?
That was for the election last November.
Just that single
Yeah,
line, single item.
That single item. Now, I have a whole email from Jeannie Ash of Hunt County explaining why it's so expensive. Because I said, look, it's 10 times more the amount than Kaufman County, and she has a full letter that I'll be giving to you all probably in the next meeting or two, so we can address that. We have to pay that, so.
We have citizen comments?
Okay. Chad McFarland?
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. So in the discussion, you answered one of my questions, is how much we paid for the election, which sounds like $5,000. How much money, sales tax money, was projected for the town to receive? Because the way I see it, this issue has cost the town $5,000 plus whatever sales tax we should have, or projected to receive until the time we can get another tax enacted. So while this law firm may have given us a lot of deals in the past, this one mistake is going to cost us quite a bit of money.
We put down, now I can't verify this personally, but I can tell you what we put down in the proposed budget, which is $90,000 for sales tax.
For a year? Or for
Well,
9 months?
that's for 9 months now. We knew that it was going to be pushed back till July. So July, August, September. So there's actually 3 months. So it would actually be about 30,000
So
for the
10,000
3
a month.
months.
10 grand a month.
Right.
So, best case scenario, we have the election in November and it gets enacted and we've lost a year's worth of sales tax. Am I understanding that correctly?
Roughly.
Well, they said that, okay, so they would, Aubrey Mashburn of the Texas Comptroller said because of the situation that we would be put at the front of the line as long as we get our paperwork in by December 31st. So we would see some sales and use revenue by April, is what she
So,
said.
10 months, 9 months. They cost us $100,000, is the way I see
Well,
it.
we're not 100% sure. That's an estimate, and we'll be
Yeah,
dealing
it's-
with the workshop.
It is a ballpark. but They cost us 9 months' worth of sales tax revenue. So just keep that in mind every
Mm-hmm.
time it's brought up about how much they're discounting us.
Right, right. You're right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So to that point, they did make some changes. I think when Andy Messer saw that this issue, they recognized that this lawyer was doing 9 cities and it was too much, and they made some changes. So Kevin Sinkovich, did you want to speak? Okay. Chadwick.
I guess my issue is, why wasn't this on the agenda for the June meeting? We had signs.
We had
for
4
gross
and a half.
throughput. and all kinds of things, but based off what you just said, on June 1st, you knew that we weren't going to collect this, and now it's 2 months later as we're bringing it to the citizens.
We had to either put it on the June or the July, and there was no hurry. So we already had 4.5 hours of meeting material, so.
So signs were more important than our sales and use tax.
Well, it's not that it's more important, it's just that there wasn't a hurry. I mean, it happened, and we have plenty of time. We're dealing with it now in July, and we still have next month to deal with it, so. And our meeting was already 4.5 hours or 5 hours, something
I
like
just
that.
think that the sales and use tax would have been something that would have been more important to talk through in June.
All right, Kinsey Salisbury.
First, I wanted to thank Tara for adding those emails to the packet because it was really, it really helped understand the situation a little bit better. So I appreciate that. So this is an issue that the legal team should have caught and got clarification on before it ever got on the ballot. This is another example of how the legal team has given the town bad advice and wasted the town's time and money. I want to thank all of the warriors who continue to have the courage and wisdom to question such results and their voices concern. I pray that God provides the council with the strength and knowledge to stand up for the citizens against these types of oversights and incompetence. I feel like, yes, there wasn't really much that we could do about it at this point. It's pretty much what you're saying. You know, that's why it wasn't on the ballot. But I think that y'all owe it to the citizens to keep them informed of when things happen as soon as possible. And I think that's where the frustration is. And didn't the county have to overlook what was being put on the ballot and then approve it also?
You know, that's a good question.
Excuse me. So I didn't know if sorry, I got something in my throat. If the county looked at it and saw that there was going to be that conflict or issue, if they couldn't have addressed it then, and then if maybe we could go to the county and have them waive the future election fee or something like that, if that's a possibility to hold them accountable also. Sorry.
That's a good point. I kind of like that. I don't know. We can ask. That's a good point, Kinsey. That was my other question was, okay, so how did the elections division not know that? Like, that's their county.
I'm still stuck on how do they rationalize 10 times?
And there's a whole, I know, and that
That's
was my
just-
question to
well,
her,
I
and
mean-
that's part of the dilemma is, she wrote a whole letter, and I haven't honestly had the time to go through it.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I'll be fascinated to read it. It's just, I don't know. How can they do it that much cheaper? And Kaufman's desperate for money. I mean, how?
It has to do with their structure and the fact that it was a November election instead of a May election. So, and again, I haven't even digested that letter, so, but you'll be getting it soon. So.
As a Kaufman voter on the November ballot, is there a lot in Hunt? Because to me, May is the traditional voting month, so it seems like when most things would be there. So, and I know that the cost is divided out by the number of entities that have something on the ballot. So it seems like we would try to line up our votes where we are going to, I mean, first off, we have to make sure we're doing things in a timely manner, but if we have the option of holding something in May versus November, if it's less expensive to do May, then it would be something to look at.
Okay, so this has to do with revenue, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, this,
if all
in this
that-
case, I don't think that applies because we're chasing, to Chad's point, we're chasing
Revenues.
potentially 10 grand
Yeah.
a month. I don't know if that's a real number, but it's something greater than zero.
And I
I
have
guess-
my doubts of the number, but
Okay.
I'm just saying, in the future, where we have that ability to weigh one versus
Right,
the other,
no,
let's try to find the
that
one that's
point.
less
Well,
expensive.
and once we digest her letter, then we'll know a little bit more, but she did say that there were a few entities that backed out, and it caused more cost to go to us and other entities. And so she said May elections are much cheaper, and there were several points, but again, we can digest that at a later date when we pay that bill. Hopefully, Patrick Smith? Shelley Smith, excuse me.
Shelley Smith, 18730 FM 1565. When did the council members first learn about this letter?
Thursday.
When did you get the bill for the Hunt County election?
I don't recall. Just recently. Just like it was very belated, and it was kind of shocking, but yeah.
So you knew we weren't getting the sales and use tax money in last month when you pushed putting in the new building. So let me just say that the letter from the Comptroller's Office in denial of the revenue means the town budget is now decreased by half. The town budgeted expecting $90,000 income from 9 months of sales tax use. That meets the number of $10,000 a month, which means businesses in Poetry would have to generate an income of $500,000 a month. How many businesses do we have in Poetry?
Well, actually, that was interesting to hear from the comptroller. We actually have about 30 businesses.
Okay, let me get back to this.
Okay.
From October to June, our income has been $40,934.82, which is an average of $47,003.21 a month. If you times that times 12, and I don't know what's coming in the next several months, that means that we have a projected income of $56,438.58. The expenses thus far are reported to be low. However, the legal bills have not been presented, well, the real legal bills, and I'm guessing there's other things that we aren't privileged to. This is a far cry from the expense budget of $185,700 for the year. Let me repeat. The actual income shows a predicted income of $54,579.76. So without the $90,000, our budget has changed now to be $144,765.18 short.
So you recognize the first year we don't have a crystal ball. That was just projected. Now, we do have a workshop on the budget, so we're going to go over that at length, and some of that may answer some of
See,
that.
in my house, if I knew that all of a sudden our income was cut in half, I wouldn't go out and buy a big fancy car.
We haven't bought a car.
You've bought a building.
We haven't bought a building. We've been donated a building.
You've bought all of the stuff around the building.
What are you talking about?
What do you mean, what am I talking about? You bought dirt, you bought moving the thing, you bought all the infrastructure for this building. Frankly, I think you would have been better off. This building is nothing more than a storage unit, okay?
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, because we cannot hold town hall meetings there. Okay? It's much too small for town hall meetings. So a secretary could be there. Sure, great. Maybe there's and there is a conference room in it. I saw your little video. And a bathroom. And that's it. And so you can put your storage stuff there.
Actually, your time is up. We'll agree to disagree on that. Actually, the building could accommodate about 20 people. That's about all we have here tonight. So for certain meetings, it could, and we also could have a municipal court there one night a week or one night a month. We could also have committee meetings there. So it has adequate room for all of that. And you have to have your municipal records and your secretary and your mayor's office right there. So it has all that anyway. All right, so.
Speaking of that, though, we will need the Hunt County Fire Marshal's office to give us the occupancy load before we do that. So just note to self.
Yes, you're right. Lori?
Oh, it's Kaufman
Kaufman
County.
County.
That's correct.
Yeah, Kaufman County. Lori, did you want to speak? Oh, he's on here. Okay. Patrick Smith, do you want to speak?
Patrick Smith, 18730-1565. The letter dated May 3rd, 2022 from the comptroller to the mayor. Am I correct that you received this on May 12th of 2022?
I did.
And you did not provide a copy of this letter to any of the council members until last Thursday?
That is not correct.
Okay, well, I thought in response to a prior
Okay, so
question.
may I explain?
Hold on. Okay, let me just explain my question.
Okay.
You were asked, when did you provide this to the council members? And you said last Thursday. Is that not correct?
He said that.
I
I didn't-
received it last Thursday.
Okay, well, did the other council members get it before that?
Remember that we cannot have quorum, so I consulted with 2 council members. We discussed the letter, then they said, when is the deadline for the new ballot measure? And I said, August 22nd. They said, well, we can postpone. We don't have to do it this time. We can do it next in July.
Okay, so who were the 2 council members that got the priority notice of this letter?
Councilmember White and Councilmember Benson.
That's a shocker. And then when did the rest of the council members get to see the
Remember
letter?
that we cannot have quorum by law, we can't have quorum. So we discussed it, and they said, you know what, there's no rush on this. We can put it on the agenda for July. We still have another month after that. And so there isn't, we had a full docket. Our meeting was 4.5 hours long in the heat, so there wasn't a rush.
Okay, so May 12th, you have this letter. You're concerned about the quorum. We don't want to violate the quorum. Yet a quorum
We take that very
hold on, hold on.
seriously. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
We do.
Yet a quorum got together on May 17th, and you could have complied with the Open Meetings Act and brought this up if you wanted to.
What are you talking about, May 17th?
Well, wasn't the last meeting on May 17th?
It was intended to be a special meeting to deal with specific issues. This
Right, well,
should be, and here's the thing, if we had done that, then we would get the criticism that, oh, you put it in a special meeting, and it's not the regular scheduled meeting where the majority of people attend.
Right,
So
but
you can't have it
what
both
was
ways.
more special about the special meeting than maybe the lawyers caused a problem that we've lost about $100,000? What was more important than that? What was more important is we wanted to spend money. And if people knew we just lost $100,000 in income,
Okay,
they
you're
might be a little
assuming
reluctant
that
on
we
that.
have lost that. We don't know that for sure. That's a
Well,
guesstimate.
okay, that $100,000 figure comes from estimates that the town did, not somebody out here in the audience. Correct.
Okay, we are here now, and we're discussing it now in the regular scheduled meeting, which we thought that is what is appropriate, because that's when the bulk of people attend.
Right, but that's you and the 2 special council members, not the entire council.
All right,
Okay.
your time is up. Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, all right.
Can we grant any more time?
No.
Can I ask, since we had so much interruption and so much talking, can I have another minute?
Okay, so he was asking some questions, and I was answering those questions. But we have in the past not allowed that, so if the council would like to decide a format for that.
Can we give him an extra minute? I mean, I'm pretty sure you have the.
Okay.
Can you allow that? I mean, I'd be in
Okay.
favor of hearing him.
Okay, so I can allow that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we had what was perceived, according to calculations by the town, a potential $100,000 loss. It could have been put on the agenda and discussed on May 17th, but it was not. It could have been put on the agenda and discussed on June 21st, but it was not. It could have been put on the agenda for the special meeting on July 12th, but it was not. Because at those meetings, the focus was on spending money.
We have a deadline. We've been gifted a building. We have a deadline. We're trying to meet that deadline.
Okay. In a court of law, I could say objection, non-responsive, and have the court order to you to answer the question, but I know I
Okay,
can't
I'm the
do that
chair of
here.
this council, and so I've allowed you extra time. Do you have anything else?
No, I think I've made my point. Thank you for the extra
Okay.
30 seconds.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you, Patrick.
Well, let me just speak since myself and Brian were called out. I mean, I would have liked to share it with the rest of the council. And I don't know if we had a secretary at the time, which has been really hard to pass out information. So I think it would have been best if we could have given it to everybody. I also didn't know what the meeting was about. I was just told there was some town business that needed taken care of, and I'm always available whenever I can. And I did decide that it was best to wait because the meeting previous, we just discussed having an overloaded agenda. And I thought, well, the deadline is until later, so let's do it on a month where we have less since we just talked about it. But that doesn't mean I was completely right in my thinking. That was just my thinking at the time.
Okay, you're speaking and out of turn. So our current balance is actually $49,000, and this June end. Yes, that's a June end. Remember, that's a bank statement. So that's essentially a bank statement. So that's why I said in the beginning of the meeting, we actually have almost $50,000 in the account currently. And recognize we get revenue every quarter. And so we were given the Encore revenue, and then the Encore does a direct deposit, whereas FEC does a check, and the check is written end of quarter, but it's not deposited until like this point. It was early July. So it wasn't on the June end. I didn't get it until early July. So we're going to talk about budget here soon, and Chad, it would be unfair to others to allow you to speak like you are. So we're gonna deal with a workshop on budget, and we'll discuss some of this. And then after the workshop, like next month probably, we can have citizen engagement with. Once we come back and have more definitive figures, we can have a citizen engagement at that time. So we are going to.
But Tara,
Tara, before you.
Yeah.
Does the elections committee in Hunt County, do they report to Judge Stovall? I was under the impression that Judge Stovall was over them, and not the senator. Well, I guess what I'm getting to is we have pretty good relations with Judge Stovall, and $4,500 is a lot of money to have to go back. And I guess before we wrote a check, I would be in favor of talking with Judge Stovall to find out if he could do something to intervene somehow.
So I can reach out to him. We do have a working relationship.
Yeah, we do.
And so, maybe we can do that together.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. He wears the same ring.
So he is very approachable. So, no, I think that's a good point, because 10 times the amount, plus it wasn't vetted properly and resulted in the.
I think, Tara, the point was well made by a number of citizens and some up here, that we could just kind of as a life lesson going forward, looking at this was 50% of our budget, yes, I know it was a guess, but it's a pretty big deal. So although I think looking at it earlier wouldn't have made the money come in faster, because we still have to wait for an election cycle. I know if I knew money I depended on wasn't going to be deposited in a given month, to Shelley's point, I would curtail my spending until I kind of knew what was going on. So I think, thankfully, we haven't spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I think going forward, we probably need to think differently about it.
Well, and having the donation by Brett Patterson of $7,500 really makes a difference.
Well, I know and my wife will back this up. People are always trying to donate horses and things to me, and she goes, no, because there is no such thing as a free horse. It costs you money, and apparently there's no such thing as a free town hall.
Well, certainly, certainly there's a moving cost. It's not, we actually have seen some generous, not only campground cemetery has been generous to donate the building, but, Danley discounted his prices, Hall discounted his prices. So, and then Brett has offered to pay up to $7,500. So we've had some real huge generosity, and that's the best approach.
Well, not to do the project plan here, but it's conceivable we could do the dirt work, move the building, and stop. And let it set, right? And then let some money build, I'm just making this up, but let some money build up, and then, we don't have the ability to go into debt, right? We're not gonna pass bonds.
Right, I personally hate that.
Well, not perfect, but.
And I think from hearing from you, the council, I haven't heard anyone of you like that. Now, granted, there was something said earlier that we've only been fully funded for 2 quarters. The first payment we received was an incomplete payment. So in actuality, and we'll cover this in the budget, in actuality, our revenue from the Encore and FEC Electric is around $80,000 a year, because the first payment was not a full payment. And so that was a skewed number. But we'll go ahead and, is there any other discussion on this letter and report?
I guess only action is we're going to file for election in August 20-something, you said, right?
The deadline is August 22nd, so
Right.
we would have to have a ballot measure on the next agenda, regular scheduled meeting, to put the 1.5. So do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion to get it on the agenda for both Hunt and Kaufman County, and so that we can qualify for election in November, which means getting on August 22nd, by August 22nd. There's so much money involved, we cannot afford not to.
I agree, we've got roads that will need some significant refurbishment, and it will take more money than just our general fund. Okay, so there's been a motion made, second by Anderson, seconded by White, to go ahead and put on the next agenda, a ballot measure for the, November ballot. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. All right, general public comments. Okay, Chad McCarthy.
Chad McFarland, 19850 FM 986. I'm here to apologize to the council for wasting y'all's time last month. In May, I sent all of y'all an email expressing my displeasure about the way something was portrayed in the Poetry Post. And I made a request that an item be placed on the agenda for the town or for the council to discuss putting tighter controls on information that is published in the town. It's my understanding that that request ended up on the agenda, but the way it was worded, I didn't recognize it. Because the way it was worded was for the town to discuss a town response to disinformation that is being spread. I can tell you that is not what I asked. So, my request was an agenda item that wasted y'all's time. And for that, you guys have my apologies.
Thank you, Chad. I'm often surprised when I put on something on the agenda, I send it off to legal and it totally changes and I'm like, that's not, and I don't recognize it either, so I've been advised with that. So I appreciate that. Yes, we did attempt, we do try and hear citizens and we do try and.
You think that agenda item is anywhere close to what I was asking for? We're just gonna have to agree to disagree with somebody.
Okay, Jack Singovich. Kevin Singovich.
Kevin Sickett, 2100 Sierra 2400. So, we were talking about a big deal a little bit ago. So, a big deal to me was about 2 meetings ago, we were talking about two of the 4 trash services that are authorized by the town of Poetry to collect franchise fees and pay the town of Poetry for franchise fees. Two of them have been delinquent for how many months? I don't even know this answer. I'm gonna ask the question. 6 months. And what
They
is,
have paid 2 quarters.
so what is 6 months worth of franchise fees from CRS and AWT, where they're collecting money, which in my view, in the state of Texas, should be considered fraud, and not paying the town of Poetry, but that's another subject. They're collecting money and they're not paying the town of Poetry, but yet we have two other, Titan and, Reed. Right, Reed/Card that are paying like clockwork right on time. How much money are we missing that they have collected in 6 months, that we're talking about budget here, and we're talking about pennies and dollars and hundreds of dollars and thousands of dollars in paying legal bills and not paying legal bills? How much money are we missing from AWT and CRS that are collecting money from the citizens of Poetry and not paying Poetry, like the other two groups that have signed a contract and are living up to their agreement? And here we got two that are not. Where are we at on that? How much money do they owe us?
I'm uncertain.
What's an estimate?
CRS is the #1 provider for the town, so they have the bulk of the calling cards and the dumpsters. I have to look back, and when they did pay a first quarter, it was several thousand. And then AWT was less than that, so it's, I don't know.
10,000?
I don't know, it's probably under 10,000, but it's somewhere, I'm not sure, and plus things change over time, so I'm not even sure. I haven't received anything from them, not one thing. And plus, we did have to pay attorney fees to try and make them pay, and so that was over $1,000 just in attorney fees. They're like, come on guys, this is not fair. It's not fair to the citizens, and it's not fair to the other vendors who are paying.
So so they maybe owe us 10,000. We've had to spend $1,000 trying to chase them on it. We got two companies that signed our Poetry's hand and dotted the line and lived up to you guys' ordinance. And we got two companies that are collecting money from the citizens of Poetry and not paying Poetry. Guys, someone needs to call the state taxes. We need to get a comptroller or somebody. We need to get a broad chart going on that, and maybe actually talk to our attorneys about doing something. This is not fair to the guys that are living up to the agreement that we.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, on that, I think I mentioned, I can't remember, a workshop or meeting, is that you're gonna give me the names of what both those companies wanted, Kevin, was they wanted to know the addresses for the people who were in Car City.
Was that, all due respect, was that part of our agreement with them?
So,
I don't know.
so this is general comments, it's not an agenda item, so I have to write that in. Now, we did, provide them a list, did we not, Mr. Duncan?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and I think, and I actually reached out to, Councilmember Jaffe, was that today or yesterday? A couple weeks ago and today, I think, or yesterday, saying, hey, we provided the list, so they haven't paid up.
So their first quarter payment, I have pictures of the checks.
And I haven't seen it at all.
For CRS is $3,708, and AWT's is $1,956. So that's their first quarter. I would assume their second quarter would be the same.
So did you talk to them, Mike?
I spoke to them today, because I'm speaking with them in good faith, expecting that if we do what we said we would, or what they said they wanted, they would respond. So we gave them the list. They've had it for a while. They were a little freaked out that some people's names were on there double, and I told them in an attempt to get them the list quicker, I didn't replace the duplicates, but the duplicates are like right next to each other, so it's obvious they're duplicates. But for some reason, that's a little bit of a struggle, but they did say in my last communication with them 6 or 8 hours ago that they would finish reviewing the check Friday, and they would bring their money on Monday.
Both of them?
Both of them.
So as a point
Because they're talking to me as one. They're not talking to me separately. Everything I get from them is always all of it. Sean and Kim, who are CRS, and Hayden, who's AWT.
Well, and Kim, who's CRS for ours, told me that was the one thing that was holding up their paying.
They've had the list for a week or two, maybe 2 weeks.
So whether it's a contract or not, let's get the money.
So,
If that's what they want.
by the figures that you presented, I mean, if you double that, that should be $11,328. So we, they've already, well, it's 5,600 times 2 is 11,000. 328. So roughly, and I'm sure they've had a little fluctuation on that, you lose some, you gain some, but that is significant revenue that they've already collected from our citizens. So, okay. So, Lori? Okay, Chad West? Kinsey?
Okay, so what I want to discuss is what y'all are about to go into with the workshop, and it's about the budget. Since this will be our second round of configuring up a budget, I really want to remind y'all to take into consideration the lawyer fees and how big of a jump that it is. And then
I'm sorry, what did you say?
the lawyer fees,
Oh,
keeping that in mind, because again, they're not always going to get a discount. And, I mean, as we've seen, we've also got a discounted type of service. So also, the sales and usage, you'll have to take that into consideration when configuring that up in there as well. So I'm curious to see if there's any other things that are what we're expecting but might not pan out. We probably need to kind of keep that as, you know, an iffy when creating that budget, so that way we don't overextend ourselves.
Thank you, Kinsey.
Shelley Smith? Shelley Smith, 18730 FM 1565. 3 times in the last couple of weeks, I've made inquiries about whether or not poetry planning and zoning meetings are open to the public, and if I may observe. I've gotten no response. This got me curious about what other towns do, so I did some quick research of 16 towns' websites of similar population size general law type A towns, such as Cattle Mills, Celeste, Eden, Hazlet, Idalou, Italy, Jefferson, Glen Rose, Gunter, City of Hooks, Gerald, Jonestown, City of Leonard, Magnolia, Meadow Lakes, and Wills Point. The common theme through this sample group of towns, that's hard to say. The common theme through this sample group of towns was this: not only do they announce the meeting time and place for planning and zoning, but they encourage their citizens to attend. Each of these other towns are incredibly transparent, posting not only their P&Z meetings, meeting agendas, extensive meeting packets, which are very informative, detailed financial statements, a town phone number listed on the homepage, and all ordinances. Everything posted for these towns is certified with blue ink signatures, dates, and has the town seal, which leads me to believe that what is posted is the final official version. No agenda, resolution, or ordinance on Poetry's website has been signed or has the town seal. None. Surprisingly, your resolution for meeting quorum is posted. Of its 8 pages, page 5 is blank. Is that a mistake, or is it intentionally blank? There is no signature or town seal. To find ordinances for poetry, you must submit an open records request, and maybe in 2 months, you'll get an answer. I've been told that for large files, there might be a fee for the copies and $15 an hour for an employee to look it up. At several meetings now, I've requested that ordinances be posted. These other towns also use a web host service to post and archive all ordinances. Muni Code and Franklin Legal seem to be the most popular. I don't know what the charge is for either of those and started to inquire, but I figured it's best to let you do that. As I was quickly rummaging through these websites, there were a couple of towns which I didn't readily see the P&Z info, so I emailed them. Within hours on Friday evening, I was emailed a personal response. Poetry needs to stop doing all the extraneous busy work and get the town business together before anything else is done. No cute street signs, no meeting agendas like vaccinations, solar panels, etc., that simply waste everyone's time. FYI, I would have sent this to you all individually, but the only way for the public to know anything about town business is if it is said on the meeting video. FYI, Glen Rose sets a marvelous example of posting a Zoom link for the town council meetings so citizens can watch in real time. An easy, expensive, and fantastic idea. And I gave you the code for that. You simply get the town business in order. This is imperative. A town set up like this will affect its residents financially. This is not a game or a Hallmark movie, although it would make for an intriguing documentary. P.S. Other ideas worth considering.
an online message board for council to publicly have city business discussions that are open to view in real time, which satisfies the open meetings requirements and allows y'all to communicate with each other. Okay, your time is up. Thank you, we have the letter, thank you.
Okay, that's a lot. There's a lot of information there.
I will put you in writing.
So I want to clarify something factually. Okay, so our P&Z is merely a committee. It is not a commission. There's a big difference. So a commission is able to do ordinances on the P&Z. This is just preliminary work. And so when there was one meeting that was held for the public, and that was posted, and that was we did have it recorded. And so the committee is just the preliminary. We're a baby town. All of these towns have been around for a while. We're a baby town. We don't even have a secretary right now. It is a goal. A lot of what you've stated is a goal for a town that's been around for years. So while we've saved a lot of money by not having a secretary, it's been extremely difficult to do both city secretary and, anyway, I'm not saying factual information. This is general, but I will take this and thank you for your work on that. So, all right, Patrick Smith.
Patrick Smith, 18730 FM 1565. In the summer of last year, during some of the initial meetings of the Town of Poetry, members of the community were solicited to volunteer to be part of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Let me ask you, when did it change from a commission?
It was never a commission.
Okay.
It was a committee.
Have you read the minute? Do I have somebody cutting the microphone off on me? Is it?
You just need to speak a little closer to it.
Right, so. During the July 21st, 2021 meeting, a lady named Patricia Adams stood up and gave a big presentation to not only to the council members, but to the members of the voting public, the citizens. She was asked to speak on what the citizens are in for. The notes, the official notes, the minutes of the meetings prepared by the Town of Poetry say, Attorney Patricia Adams said, generally for a planning and zoning, okay, is this just to take up the time?
No.
For a planning and zoning commission, there are about 7 members. What happens is the commission will do some of the work and they will have a town hall meeting. I know I'm going to get gaveled down at 2 minutes and 59 seconds, so I'm going to get copies of these to you. But I want to quote Councilmember Fowler, who had a prophetic question. He asked Patricia Adams, the town attorney, if the commission meetings are under the Open Meetings Act. The answer was yes.
Yes, they are.
Okay, when did we decide though we're not going to do the P&Z commission meetings
What
under the
she
Open
also
Meetings Act?
explained,
Go
she
ahead.
wanted okay, so I'm trying to answer your question. You asked it for the direct question.
And I'm asking for a date, okay, so we can cut out all the other. When was it decided, what date that the commission meetings that Attorney Adams said are subject to the Open Meetings Act are not really subject to
We
it?
never formed a commission. We
So
never formed
the
a
lawyer
commission.
misrepresented it was a commission?
No, she was explaining the process because we remember we were very new. We didn't understand the process. So she suggested we form a committee of citizens first and then form a commission. Yes, when the commission forms, it is subject to the Open Meetings Act. And yes, we haven't done that yet.
Okay, so the Planning and Zoning Commission that Attorney Adams referenced, and it's got the names of the council members and the citizens who said we're gonna be on this commission, and it was voted on. At some point, somebody made a decision, we are not going to comply with the Open Meetings Act.
That's not
because-
correct.
Because we don't have to.
That's
The
not
commission
correct.
has become a
You're
committee.
making false accusations, and that is not correct.
Okay. All right, so let's, I don't want to get caught down in this.
Okay, so you're making false accusations, so I'm gonna shut you down for that. So you can have it. Listen, you're making false accusations on a committee that has worked very, very diligently. These are volunteers who spent dozens and dozens of hours every single month, and you are making false accusations. Realign yourself, sir.
Okay. Thank you for your support. Let me just back up. Is it true over the years, many people have asked, can we come attend the planning and zoning meeting?
I don't have jurisdiction in that. That is a committee, and Ms. Hartfeld is, Hardwick is the chairwoman of that committee. It is a committee, not a commission. I think we made that abundantly clear.
So as the mayor of the town of Poetry, are you telling the people in the room tonight, you don't know whether a single citizen has ever been enabled to attend one of those meetings?
There have been 7 who are on the committee, plus 2 council members. They did have one open meeting that I'm aware of,
Okay.
and that was duly posted according to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
Anything
My
else?
question is, can you say, other than a member of the commission, has any other citizen who's requested, hey, what's the date and time of the P&Z meeting, can I attend? Has a single one of them ever gotten into that
They
secret
have
meeting?
had guest speakers, but they have had guest speakers from my understanding. So, there's 2 council members who are on that. They might want to speak to that. I don't know, but this is general comments.
Okay, thank you. If you wouldn't mind taking one and passing it down, and since I'm not gonna get to say anything else.
Okay, so we are going to adjourn our regular meeting.
Well, I signed up to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, you absolutely did. Robin, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay. I totally understand we're all new, small town, all that kind of good stuff. But I also work for a city, and I understand I'm not a small city, but I do know there are still requirements you have to meet. For example, the open record thing, legally, state of Texas, because I do them also, you have to respond. When someone puts in a request, you have a 10-day regulation to respond. It can't take 2 months for an open records request. Can I explain? No, I'm just making points because I've worked in municipality many years, and I know that when it comes to me having to get the information back, I only have 10 days legally by law. How many days do you work? I work 5 days a week. Okay, so it depends on your municipality. If you only have a secretary that works 1 day a week, that 10 days can go 10 weeks.
Let her finish what she's saying and then.
Okay.
And when is, since y'all's town's different, when is the fiscal end for the town of Poultry? Is it September 30th? As you said, it differs for cities, but every city I've ever known, it is the last day in September.
We voted to make it end of September, yes.
And to the building that's being moved, so that's Kaufman County, is what you were saying. So do permits have to be pulled? And what building code, and if y'all even actually have a building inspector inspect this building, making sure it is all up to code, it's safe. If it's not up to code, how much more money is that going to take to bring that building to code once you move it? Just things to think about.
We have had it inspected. Now, Councilmember Anderson, he did volunteer. He paid for the initial inspection. He volunteered to go ahead and pay for the subsequent inspection.
So do y'all have to bring that building to a certain code?
We're the town of Poetry. We have no building codes. We do have.
But it's Kaufman County. Do
It
they
doesn't
have a
matter. It's in our jurisdiction.
No, I'm just asking, do they have a code that we?
It was deemed safe.
Okay, good deal on that then.
And by the way, we're relying on the building inspector to know the codes. He does tell us in his extensive report, what codes are that we need to be following.
Well, I just know
Electrical, plumbing, et cetera.
bringing things up to code can be very expensive. 'Cause like I said, I've worked in the building inspection department, so I know that can happen.
And what city do you work for?
Mm. Not going there, okay, no, okay. So, and the deal with the trash, if we've got two companies that are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing and giving us the revenue, and we've got these two that are not, I don't understand, like, I would wanna know how long their contract is left, and if you keep defaulting on your contract, why would we turn around and try to renew with them and just bump up everybody to the ones that are doing good and paying on time like clockwork? And to the engineer, James Adams, that's out of, I believe y'all said it was Collin County.
I think it's Collin County.
He's awesome. I know him personally, and so I would vouch that he's a trustworthy county engineer. That's just on that part. I guess that's it. Thank y'all for hearing me on my street issue on the 2400, and I guess that's all I got for the moment. Thank you, Donna. Okay, so we are going to adjourn our regular meeting. Do you fellas want to take a break or a little break, or and then we'll talk about the workshop? Okay, we'll take it 5 minutes.